This is Stepan Grib Krivoshev, an FSB or formerly known as KGB agent, primarily tasked with recruiting young men to commit various acts on behalf of Russian intelligence. Krivoshev is wanted in multiple countries, including Poland, where the Polish authorities accuse him of recruiting the terrorists responsible for the most atrocious act of terror in Polish history since the Soviet era. The arson attack on the Merewilska shopping center in Warsaw in May 2024. He is also allegedly connected to several other incidents, including an arson attack on a restaurant in Gdynia in 2023 that caused 3 million zloty or $800,000 worth of damage, the burning of a storage facility in Marki near Warsaw in 2024, and an attempted arson attack on a warehouse in Gdansk in that same year. But what does this have to do with South Africa, you may ask? Well, two things. Firstly, Krivoshev himself was detained at Johannesburg's airport by the South African State Security Agency during a visit in February this year to this country. Yet, because the ANC-led government maintains close ties with Vladimir Putin's regime in Russia, he was promptly released. The question remains, what was this individual doing on South African soil? Secondly, Krivoshev is closely associated with Konstantin Maloviev, a Putin-aligned oligarch sanctioned by the United States of America. Maloviev has deep ties to South Africa's ruling party, having supported the ANC and Umkhonto we Sizwe over the years. As recently as 2023, Voice of America reported that Maloviev, together with Victor Vekselberg, another US-sanctioned oligarch, donated 15 million rands or about $826,000 to the ANC through United Manganese of Kalahari Limited, or UMK. UMK is majority owned by the ANC's funding front, Chancellor House, while another company linked to Vekselberg and Maloviev holds a stake of less than 50%. According to the US Department of Homeland Security, such sub-50% holdings in companies allows sanctioned individuals like Vekselberg and Maloviev to move money covertly and circumvent US sanctions. Knowing the aforementioned, why does the South African government act? Well, insert surprise Cyril Ramaphosa face when confronted with South African men stuck on the front lines in the Donbas. On November 6, Pretoria confirmed it had received distress calls from 17 South African citizens aged 20 to 39 trapped in the Donbas after joining the forces involved in the ongoing war. What makes this particularly interesting is that the government immediately ordered a probe into what exactly was going on, as it remains, according to them, unclear whether these mercenary soldiers are fighting with Ukraine or with Russia. To complicate matters, while most of the international community still views Donbas as Ukrainian territory, it is now completely under Russian control. This creates a logistical nightmare for the South African government when it comes to verification and potential extraction. According to reports, many of the young men now calling for the South African government to intervene in Donbas were lured to the war with promises of lucrative compensation, which in particular, if these men have been fighting for the Russian side, could have immense implications for South Africa's Russian relations within the context of BRICS. The ongoing Russo-Ukrainian war has been a sensitive geopolitical issue for the South African government for quite some time. While most of this country's biggest trading partners has been strongly allied with Ukraine, Ramaphosa's government has also been prioritizing its alliance with Russia in the context of BRICS as members of the so-called Global South. As such, South Africa has been forced into an awkward diplomatic position of attempting to appease both pro-Russian and pro-Ukrainian international partners by maintaining some form of neutrality, even though we know that they have a very close association with the Russian government. And while Cyril Ramaphosa's government has repeatedly highlighted that it has no desire to be drawn into taking sides, even suggesting that South Africa could play a role in negotiating peace talks between the two nations, going as far as to say that South Africa should be the one determining the agenda of such negotiations. In fact, during a recent discussion with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Ramaphosa pointed to the negotiations that led to South Africa's transition from apartheid to multiculturalism as an example of how peace talks in the Donbas should proceed. Now, this suggestion is quite ironic in and of itself, given that Ramaphosa's own government has been trampling and violating every single one of the rights negotiated by the Afrikaners who handed the country to the ANC on a silver platter. During the early 90s, the Afrikaners negotiated with the ANC to maintain our own Afrikaans schools, to maintain our property rights, and also our right to territorial self-determination, which is even enshrined in the Article 235 of the South African Constitution. Yet, by means of the Bella Act, through which the government has radically increased its control over Afrikaans schools, through the Expropriation Act, which violates our most basic property rights, and through the pressure the government, including Ramaphosa's own ministers, continually places on Afrikaner towns such as Orania and Kleinfontein, the government has been shamelessly violating every single aspect of the very agreement which Ramaphosa proposes to serve as an example upon which to base what would have to be extremely delicate and calculated negotiations to stand any chance of ending the war in Ukraine. Now, the South African government's geopolitical gymnastics by which it attempts to appease all sides and present itself as some kind of international hero seems to be coming to an end in the worst possible way. It must be noted here that the very reason that young South African men are lured by these foreign military forces to travel thousands of kilometers to engage in a war that does not affect them in any way in and of itself points to the failures of the Ramaphosa government in terms of allowing the free market to create job opportunities for these young men at home. The effect of this is that the government in Pretoria is now sitting with a kind of international relations problem it never could have foreseen, having to come to aid its own citizens fighting a war that it tries its best to remain neutral in, and it doesn't even know for which side the South Africans are fighting, it alleges. This is nothing short of an absolute geopolitical nightmare for the South African government. Its geopolitical balancing act, the tightrope walk between East and West, strategic alliances and realpolitik, history and hypocrisy, all of it is unraveling in a full view of the entire world. Pretoria has spent the past decade insisting on neutrality in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, preaching peace through dialogue and invoking its own transition as a global model for reconciliation. Yet, that very posture of non-alignment has now trapped it in the crossfire, and quite literally so. Ramaphosa's attempts to style himself as the man who can bring Kiev and Moscow to the table now has its own citizens on the battlefield, not as peacekeepers, but as mercenaries for hire, even violating the Foreign Militaries Assistance Act of 1998, according to which it is illegal for South African citizens to provide military assistance to foreign governments. And he faces a dilemma that is almost certain to end badly for him, because the moment Pretoria intervenes to rescue these men, it implicitly takes a side, and yet the moment it refuses, it abandons its own people to die in a war it pretends it doesn't concern itself with. Either way, the outcome will end in catastrophe for the ANC, and it is bound to further devastate Ramaphosa's already shattered international reputation. In short, South Africa's vaunted non-alignment, that which it considered to be a position of safety and strength, had now become its greatest geopolitical predicament. This geopolitical nightmare is only the latest episode in the ongoing collapse of the corrupt and incompetent ANC that has governed this country into the ground for so long. Check out our recent video on why the ANC's complete destruction is inevitable at this point by simply clicking on this link appearing on your screen right now. And if you enjoy our work and think we are doing a good job, consider contributing to the Willem Petsche Group by joining as a member. Simply follow the easy steps on the banner at the bottom of your screen. Without your help, we cannot change the hearts and minds of people through these videos. Goodbye and God bless.